Hello and welcome to the first video in our Scale Tool series. My name is Dr. Jeremy and I will be walking you through step 1, contextualization. You may or may not have seen this tool before, but let's dive right in. You will see this tool throughout the 10th grade curriculum. This tool is very helpful in looking through history. One of my favorite quotes by David Christian is that unlike map makers, historians have to worry about scale in time as well as space. And this tool is a perfect way for us to navigate all those levels of history. The 4 steps are in front of us here. We will look at contextualization, spatial scale, which is looking at how the event will impact individuals, communities, nations, and even to the world. The third step is temporal scale, and we'll be looking at not only the impact of short term or long term, but also the immediate impact of an event. And then we will synthesize everything with a historical understanding and assessing the impact and consequence of the event. So before we go into all of that, we definitely need to know the background and the context of what we're going to be looking at. We are going to look at the First World War and use a reading by Dr. Trevor Getz, in which he really goes into the perfect background of this event. So we're going to trace the First World War with scale. And let's annotate for scale as well. So we'll be reading with definitely the purpose of scale in mind. Take a minute or two, actually take as long as you need, pause this and read the text, and then we'll come back together. Ideally, you have had time to read through the document, and let's go through it and read it now again using our historical scale tool in mind. We know the name of the event, the Great War, or World War I, or the First World War, depending on how your teacher has taught it. The next step is to look for our geographic location. So let's look at the text again. And where did this happen? What locations did we read? We'll use this lovely magenta color and we'll underline our locations. So we see in the text that the principal combat fronts were in Europe. We can actually do better than that. So we see that it was in Europe and Southwest Asia, particularly along the borders between France and Germany, Russia and Germany/Austria-Hungary, and the borders between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. We also read that the war happened and the fighting happened in the colonies themselves too. So the colonies in Africa in particular are mentioned in this text. And we also see that there was fighting in Arabia. If you know of any other locations, definitely feel free to put them when you're doing your contextualization. It just makes it more nuanced. We will also see, and we can actually infer, that the use of submarines means that some of this also happened in the water. So let's keep this in mind because we can infer that there was maritime fighting as well. So the next section is going to be looking at our key players. In other words, what individuals or nations played a major role in this event? In particular, in this study, we're looking for the nations that played a key role in the Great War or World War I, and let's see if we can annotate for that as well. We read in the beginning here that there were 2 great coalitions. And if we look at our vocabulary here, we're looking at 2 alliance systems. So let us annotate for that. We'll do one in blue. And our first one is going to be our allies here. And our ally side, we have France, Russia, and Great Britain. And we also see Serbia, Italy, and Belgium. and then later on, the United States and Japan. If you know more as well, definitely put them in because it just makes it richer if you know more. We also see that there was another side. Let's make the other side another color. We have the Central Powers as our other side here, and we have Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. So now we know who our key players are, and we can actually infer, because of the colonists, that we also have the people and resources from the colonies fighting. So we could even say the colonists are also key players in this as well. The final part of the contextualization section asks us to consider the historical circumstances that led to the First World War. This is another way of asking for historical background and is a great place to begin thinking about the events that may have caused this war as well. Based on the reading, there were some important historical events or themes that occurred. And the author did a really great job by saying that even though there are a number of turning points, there are four main ones for us to consider. So let's see, which ones should we consider? Let's put this in a lovely yellow. We have the Enlightenment. We have the Industrial Revolution. We have the emergence as well of these modern nationalistic movements that happen through revolutions and other movements around the world. And then we have the growth of modern and highly industrialized empires as well, playing key roles here. So now we know that there are several things at play that led to this war. Take a minute to look, compare your annotations with mine, and see, and you may have had a different annotation style as well, but as long as you can understand it and transfer it, that is what's important. Okay, take a look. So let's actually see my completed chart here. Okay, so step one, our name of our event, it could be the Great War, World War I, or First World War. Our geographic location based on our annotations. We have Europe and Southwest Asia, where we had the major battles. And we also, the text gave us along the borders of France and Germany, Russia and Germany / Austria-Hungary, and Russia and the Ottoman Empire. We know as well that fighting happened in the colonies, specifically the colonies in Africa. We know there was fighting in Arabia as well. And then we inferred from the text that there was also marine warfare. When we look at the key players, we know that there were two main sides. We had the Allies, we had the Central Powers, and then as well, we inferred that the colonists were also fighting because they were used in the effort as well. And when we were asked what were the historical circumstances, we know that there are a couple of trends, such as the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, the emergence of modern nationalism through revolutions and movements around the world, and the growth of modern industrialized empires. Now that we have our background and we have our step one completed, our next step is going to be looking at the spatial scale of this First World War. Can't wait to see you in the next video when we go into step two.